The Valley of the Kings, The History of Ancient Egypt's Most Famous Tombs and Burial Site, by Charles River Editors, narrated by Colin Fluxman. Introduction. I saw to the excavation of the rock tomb of His Majesty, alone, no one seeing, no one hearing. An inscription credited to an adviser of Thutmose I. Then His Majesty said to them, This daughter of mine, Khnametamun Hatshepsut, may she live. I have appointed as my successor upon my throne. She shall direct the people in every sphere of the palace. It is she indeed who shall lead you. Obey her words. Unite yourselves at her command. The royal nobles, the dignitaries, and the leaders of the people heard this proclamation of the promotion of his daughter, the king of Upper and Lower Egypt, Ma'at-Kare, may she live eternally. An inscription on Hatshepsut's mortuary temple in the Valley of the Kings. Africa may have given rise to the first humans, and Egypt probably gave rise to the first great civilizations, which continue to fascinate modern societies across the globe nearly 5,000 years later. From the library and lighthouse of Alexandria to the Great Pyramid at Giza, the ancient Egyptians produced several wonders of the world, revolutionized architecture and construction, created some of the world's first systems of mathematics and medicine, and established language and art that spread across the known world. With world-famous leaders like King Tut and Cleopatra, it's no wonder that today's world has so many Egyptologists. Given the abundance of funerary artifacts that have been found within the sands of Egypt, it sometimes seems as though the ancient Egyptians were more concerned with the matters of the afterlife than they were with matters of the life they experience from day to day. One of the most abundant sources of these funerary artifacts is the Valley of the Kings, a royal necropolis located on the west bank of the Nile at Thebes. Here, pharaohs of the New Kingdom period were buried in elaborate, treasure-filled tombs that were cut deep into the cliffs that walled the Nile Valley. In many of the royal tombs in the Valley of the Kings, intricate reliefs were painted on the walls that depicted the sun god and the dead king on their nightly journey through the underworld, which was known in Egyptian as the Duat. These scenes, which vary slightly from tomb to tomb, are known collectively by modern scholars as the Book of Gates, because they depict the sun god's journey through 12 gates or pylons, one for each hour of the night. As the sun god and the dead king travel through the night, they have to contend with various demons and a giant snake known as Apophis. The Egyptians believed this journey was cyclical, as they viewed time itself, so it took place daily. Though these tombs have been extensively plundered, they still stand as gateways to the afterlife that provide a murky window into the past of a fascinating civilization. Most importantly, the relatively untouched tomb of the young King Tutankhamun offered clear insight. Many of the objects that were discovered in Tutankhamun's tomb were clearly made specifically for him and his burial, such as the coffins, funerary masks, canopic equipment, and statues. Other objects such as the furniture, clothing, and chariots were obviously items that had been used during Tutankhamun's lifetime. The motifs found upon many of his possessions depicted him in triumph over his enemies. For example, a painted wooden chest bears a fine example of such a scene. The king is shown in his chariot, followed by his troops, attacking a group of Nubians. Scenes depicting aggression and triumph over Egypt's enemies by Egypt's king are classical examples of Egyptian kingship. The Valley of the Kings, the history of ancient Egypt's most famous tombs and burial site, examines the history of the Valley of the Kings and examines Egypt's most famous burial site. Chapter 1. Ancient Egyptian Burials. In order to truly understand the tombs of the Valley of the Kings, it is first necessary to understand the basics of ancient Egyptian burial practices. Burial is the term commonly used to describe the collection of ancient Egyptian funerary rites that dealt with both death and the soul's journey on the way to the afterlife. During the New Kingdom period, a royal Egyptian burial would culminate with the placement of the deceased pharaoh's mummy in his tomb, hidden deep within the Valley of the Kings. Every Egyptian was destined for eternity after death, but the Egyptians had no conception of an ethereal, otherworldly afterlife. Instead, the Egyptians believed that they would spend eternity in an eternal Egypt, and that their lives there would mirror
Sample complete. Ready to continue?